Many years ago, I used to have a big fear of flying, and around the same time, I also learned how to drive, and I just assumed that I could drive anywhere that I wanted to go, and not have to ever deal with flying again. At the time, it seemed like we would one day have a bridge over the Bering Strait, and then around the same time, YouTube was also invented. And so I was watching. I had befriended a truck driver who would often record his trips. He had a dash cam, just for just in case of anybody accused him of damaging the truck. And as a side benefit, he got to upload those videos onto YouTube. I'm not sure what he was making more money off of at the time, the truck driving or the fact that people were watching his YouTube videos, because some of those YouTube videos went viral. At the time, I didn't have my own car, and so watching those videos was like a virtual vacation for me. And I told him that I wanted to drive on I-70 one day in the Rocky Mountains. It's funny, I knew about all these highways before I ever set foot in any of those places. And one day he texts me like 10 times in the middle of the night and said, "Hey, watch my video, watch my video." And he was finally going to drive I-70 just west of Denver, and I had a really good time watching it. And this was in 2006, around the beginning of YouTube. It was one of the first major YouTube channels that I ever followed, and but it was still a curiosity for many years. My family was in Pittsburgh, and the following year I started working on my PhD in Rochester, New York. And everybody thought I was crazy for driving between Pittsburgh and Rochester. It's only a 5-6 hour drive, but even still, people thought I should fly. And when you think about it, if you have to deal with all the hassles of flying, it really doesn't save you all that much time. And it was a very scary experience for me at the time. You got to fly from Pittsburgh to either New York or to Detroit. And then you got to fly to Rochester, and then you got to deal with security. You got to deal with booking the plane ticket, and it's obviously you don't control the schedule anymore. It didn't seem like it would save all that much time, especially for somebody who actually loved driving. It didn't seem like all that much of a benefit. I guess it was safer, but in terms of the time, the scheduling, the cost, it didn't seem worthwhile. And not to mention the fear factor for me. It was obviously an unfounded fear, but still. So I continued to make that drive for many years. Even to this day, I still don't see any benefit of flying, because the other big benefit of driving is to have the car when I get to the destination. I guess you could always rent a car, but that's another hassle. And then you got to waste a few hours dealing with car rental. You're not saving any time anymore. The only real benefit is the safety, and even then I don't perceive the benefit because of how fearful I am. So that doesn't turn out. But in 2015, I was in between jobs for a couple of months, and I finally had some time to make a long distance drive. And I drove from Seattle all the way to I went to visit my friends in Rochester first, and then I drove from Rochester to Pittsburgh. I distinctly remember when I was with my friends in Rochester. I was driving a Honda Accord at the time, and I had parked the Honda Accord just outside of the campus where I went to school. And when I looked at the Honda Accord there, and I realized that it had come from Seattle, I was like, I can't believe Seattle and Rochester are like on the same planet. It was like an interplanetary road trip for me. For this, I used to think. So I used to have 5 planets in my life. There was the West Coast, there was the East Coast, there was Asia, and then there was Western Europe and Eastern Europe. You know, to go from any one of those planets to the other, you have to fly. But now I only have 3, because now I've discovered that the West Coast and the East Coast are on the same planet. I also took a train from Leiden in the Netherlands to Gdansk, Poland. So now they're on the same planet too. So now I only have 3 planets in my life. I think I'll eventually connect them too, because I just love road trips so much. Another one of my favorite times on the road trip was when I'd gone crazy one time. I was on my way from I'd taken a vacation to Missoula, Montana. That was one stop. The other stop was Laramie, Wyoming. And I just got so crazy today, I didn't want to sleep. You know, I would stay up all night viewing the night sky. And then by day, I was visiting the city and all that. And so I had gone 60 to 72 hours without sleeping. And I had watched the day turn into night, night to day, day to night cycle multiple times. And obviously, we have very clear skies in Montana and Wyoming. So it felt like a trip into space. You know, I felt like I was on this giant spaceship with 8 billion other passengers, right? A giant spaceship that has an 8,000-mile diameter, and I was just riding along. It was day and night and day and night, and the moon was moving across the sky and all that. And so that also felt like an interplanetary road trip to me. But I like being slightly sleep deprived. When I go about 48 hours without sleep, that's when I feel my best. A lot of things don't seem to bother me anymore. You see, another thing that helps me get over some of my anxiety is if I go on a fast. If I go 24 hours without either food or sleep, oh my God, I feel so good. I was at a protest. This was 3 months ago when protesters had taken over. At first, it was very peaceful. Protesters had taken over 5 or 6 blocks of Seattle. And I was at that protest, and usually large crowds like that make me really anxious. Obviously, we have all the anxieties with COVID-19 as well, plus all the uncertainty of just what that protest is going to turn out. It did turn out violent at the very end. I went there when it was still very peaceful, but usually I have very bad social anxiety. But I was slightly sleep deprived. I was also fasting at the time. I felt so good, like nothing could bother me. It slid right past me. You know, sometimes when I have a job interview and I can't sleep the night before a job interview and I go there and I think I'm doomed, right? Because I didn't sleep. Actually, that's when I'm my best. Nothing can bother me when I'm sleep deprived. You know, I often muse about moving to a planet where days are slightly longer than 24 hours, because then I would constantly be slightly sleep deprived. If I lived on a planet where the day was 27 hours, it would be like pushing my bedtime by 3 hours every day, right? And those last 3 hours, I would feel so good, and I could repeat it. I wouldn't have to compensate by going. See, on the weekends when I sleep later and later, and then on Sunday night I have to push it all the way back, I feel miserable on Monday because now either I didn't sleep at all and my schedule is a mess, and toward the end of that day, I'm already pushing past the sweet zone of when I like to be sleep deprived, or I have to actually reset my sleep schedule and then sleep very well and then go to work without being slightly sleep deprived. It doesn't seem to work out very well. I actually made a little chart one time, given my work schedule, how I can arrange my sleep so I can sleep every 26 hours and still attend all of my commitments. I had a spreadsheet of how to do it. I never could get it to work in real life, though. It was only a theory. I don't know why. I'll have to give that another try at some point. But it feels so good when I do that. But road trips allow me to really do that. Another thing I sometimes do on the road is one time I went. I think it was on a 7-day trip to the East Coast, and I was sleeping 2 hours here and 4 hours there and 3 hours there and never really sleeping more than that. I felt so good. And I slept a whole lot less than 8 hours a day on average, I would say. I believe it's called polyphasic sleeping. I want to do it in my daily life, but and my work commitments kind of allow that. The only problem is that it's very hard to get your train of thought back if you're constantly sleeping 2 hours here and 2 hours there. I've never seen this addressed on websites about polyphasic sleeping. People swear that they can sleep a whole lot less than 8 hours, and they can. The problem is you waste more than what you saved on getting your train of thought back. I guess it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing like manual labor, that might work out. If you're doing anything that involves creative work, that's a whole different story. Anyways, hopefully I'll get to take a road trip at the end of this. Thanks for watching.